The highway to the danger zone runs right through the heart of the lower 48, where we find the threat of severe weather, including tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, and more flash flooding, along with extreme temperatures and heat index values for days on end. Folks, we've got more fruit in the Gulf to talk about as well, with heavy rains a possibility through Florida and along some of the Gulf Coast states. We're going to look at all of that. And we are in geomagnetic storm conditions. So we're going to check out space weather and Earth weather, and we're going to see what is going on and how long it will last. This is Cold Rain's Weather World. Jason Pritchard is the host. Cold Rain's Weather World's the show. We've got all the weather, and we are the fastest growing new weather show on the net. Thank you for joining. We've had a lot of subscribers lately. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit the like button, share with friends and family, and of course, turn on those notifications. We've got a lot going on. You'll be first to get notified when new weather information is available and new things happen. So join the team. Leave a comment in the comments section. Let me know where you're commenting from. And as always, leave a prayer request if there's something that I can be in prayer over for you. I'm happy to do that. So again, thanks for joining, and we are going to get rocking and rolling right now. We're going to start with a look at the fruit in the Gulf in our tropical update. Well, we begin in the Eastern Pacific, where, another lemon exists out here. 20% chance of a development for this tropical wave that's sitting out here. It will continue to move in this direction and not really bother anybody at all, at least for the time being. But look over here in the Atlantic. Down here in the Gulf of Cold Rain. Look at that. We've got another lemon down here for a 10% chance of development. What we've got is a little disturbance working through Florida, emerging into the Gulf, and it will continue to move westward across the Gulf and eventually make landfall somewhere in Texas, and probably will not develop all that much, but it will bring heavy rains to the Gulf Coast, and we will watch it to see. As a matter of fact, if we take a look here at the Atlantic sea surface temperatures, this is actually centered here in the Pacific, but look way over here at the Atlantic. You could probably see this. There is, this is the sea surface temperature anomaly map over the last 7 days. So it shows you where it's getting warmer and where it's getting cooler. And look here off the coast of the Southeast, it's getting warmer, a little cooler here in the Gulf, a little cooler down in the Caribbean, and then out here in the Pacific, getting a little bit cooler there. So not a lot to speak of, but just note that in the back of your mind. We're going to look at this every week and see, as we get into tropical season, how the waters are warming out there. You need warmer waters for hurricane development. That's what hurricanes like: low shear, warm waters, upward rising motion, and a moist environment. And we have some of those features, and some of them we don't. So in any event, here is that satellite image of that swirl moving through Florida. You can't really make out a good circulation here, which is why we're not expecting any sort of rapid development, but it is causing some rain through Florida, some convection out here in the Gulf. It is continuing to move on a westerly trajectory, and there's what that looks like. Not a lot of, it's not very impressive right now, but it's going to bring some rainfall. European shows rain over Florida over the next 24 hours, looking at picking up somewhere around an inch and a half in spots, possibly. And then right along the Florida Panhandle, as we get on in here toward Mobile, Gulfport, down toward southern Louisiana, some of the bayous down here, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, going to pick up some rain as well. Could pick up a couple of inches of rain here. You've already had plenty of rain over the last week or so with another tropical disturbance. Now I've had a chance to dry out from that. More rain is on the way. So look at that as we go on out in time, and that's as far as we need to go. But get through Sunday here, got several inches of rain that could fall right along the Gulf Coast. So be wary of that. Some flooding concerns could be in the cards out there. If we look at the broader Atlantic, there's the circulation in the Gulf, a little bit of cloud cover and showers down here in the Caribbean. Nothing to worry about there. Just some showers off the southeast coast as well. Disturbance up here in the northern Atlantic moving away. And here's our main development region right down in through here. And you can see a series of tropical waves. There's one emerging off the coast of Africa right here. Here's another one out here in the western or the eastern Atlantic, and here's another one moving through the central Atlantic. And none of these really look all that impressive, to be honest. You can see they're kind of ragged out here, so we're not really looking at a lot of development. The GFS actually tries to develop these a little bit. I'll show you that here in a second. But here's the wind shear map. I'm going to get on this display, tropical tidbits display here. There's the wind shear that's out there right now. So this is the main development region right in here. I'll circle it so we can see it. Let's do it in pink. That probably gives us the best chance to see what's going on. Here is the main development region here. And so we're going to watch the wind shear as we go through the next several days. Plenty of wind shear out there this morning. There comes a little wave. You can see that little 1014 low moving off of Africa. The GFS has a little circulation with it, tries to develop it, and it gets into an environment. The shear actually abates over this region a bit as we go on through the week. So we've got a little swirl here, and we'll see what happens with that. Maybe we'll get a lemon out here and see what happens. But as it gets on into the Caribbean, we're going to find cooler waters, and shear will pick back up as we get on out into the period. So that's what's going on there. And then finally, as we take a look here in the tropical Atlantic, there's the GFS. It brings a little wave through, tries to develop it a bit, and then crashes it on into the islands, and another one comes by, and another one comes by. So we've got the wave train starting to pick up a little bit. We just need conditions to get a little bit better out here. Less dry air, less shear, gets into the warmer water section of the Atlantic. We could have something going, but I don't expect a lot, at least through the first part of August. Probably as we get into the second part of August is when we'll see business pick up in the tropics a little bit. Looking at the forecast for homegrown activity, there's convection and some showers in the Gulf. Maybe get a little circulation there out of that over the next couple of days. Down the line, we get on out here toward day 10. There's day 8 right here, day 9, day 10. We get a little activity down here in the Gulf again. And then GFS tries to spin something up down here again in the Gulf. So it's tried to do this several times. So we're going to watch this because as the pattern, we've got a big ridge in the atmosphere as that retrogrades back west. Little pieces of energy kind of rotate around that, get caught in the Gulf. Could always have something spin up there. We've had several. We've got some warm water out here, and so we'll see. That's what's going on in the tropics. Got severe weather to talk about though. More tornadoes in the forecast, and big heat is setting up shop in the center of the country. We're going to get right into that here in just a second. We're going to start with the severe weather. Before we do that, let me ask you a question about the weather. I don't know about you, but I am ready for fall. I love fall and I can't wait, and I suspect many other people are going to be ready for fall after we get through this 2-week heat dome that we've got to trudge through. And it may not last 2 weeks, but it's going to last a good long time, and we're going to be ready for it to end by the time it does end. And the question today has to do with fall, and it's about the pretty colors that you see on the trees, the oranges, reds, and yellows. And so why does that happen? Why do leaves change color in the fall? Is it because there's increased sunlight, or are trees storing more water, or do cooler temperatures add color, or could it be that chlorophyll breaks down? Well, if you remember back to your elementary science class, you may know the answer, and if you do, type it in the comment section. If you don't, simply wait till the end of the show and I will reveal it to you, and then you can tell all your friends what you learned on Cold Rain's Weather World. But next up, severe weather is back, and we've got to talk about it. Yeah, severe weather remains in the picture, and pretty much for the same places we've been talking about over and over for the last couple of weeks along the north and northern tier and into the Midwest and Great Lakes, folks. You can see the synoptic situation fairly well on our mid-level vapor image. We've got a high-pressure ridge centered here over the southeast, the mid-south, and you can see that clockwise flow around that. That's where the storm track is. It's enabled this trough to work into the northeast, bringing fall-like conditions up here and push a backdoor cold front. You can see that dry punch working all the way into the Carolinas here. That's pretty nice. Going to feel warm, but a little less humid in these areas, at least for today. And then over here in the south, we've got a bunch of moisture. This looks a lot scarier than it is. Not really producing any shower activity too much here. These green colors and whites are more moisture content. You can see a little dry air working into the lower Mississippi Valley and again in the southwest, but got a big moisture plume coming up and feeding moisture into the northern plains, and a lot of these green areas here are actually producing showers and thunderstorms, and you can see that here on the radar. I've got showers moving into the Fargo area, stretching all the way back into Grand Rapids and working over toward northern Minnesota around Duluth, and got another little batch here working in toward Madison, Wisconsin down here, and a couple of showers scattered about northern that's Nebraska, if I could get the words out. And that's what's going on today on the radar. Now, if we look at this afternoon, we've got a cold front that's sort of a quasi-stationary front. It extends from Nevada all the way back into the eastern Dakotas up through Minnesota. That's going to be pushing off to the south and the east over the next day or so. Out ahead of this front in the warm sector, we're finding severe weather, including tornadoes and a flash flooding threat. These thunderstorms are in a richly moist air mass, and they're going to drop torrential rainfall rates as they move through. Here is the actual outline of severe weather all the way back from the Great Lakes back into the Dakotas and northern central plains. Thunderstorms anywhere in the green areas from the central plains back through the Mississippi Valley into the deep south and southeast, but a slight risk exists back from the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, northwestern Iowa, and into central Nebraska. That's where we're finding the chance of tornadoes, winds, and hail. Tornadoes predominantly centered up here near that low pressure where there's a little bit more spin interacting with a boundary. Supercells are going to develop this afternoon, drop a couple of tornadoes up here in northern Wisconsin. That's near Duluth, it's near the Twin Cities, it's near Green Bay. So anybody in those areas, pay attention, folks, up there. Wind could be a threat anywhere within those areas, particularly in slight risk, and hail a little bit better of a threat out west where we've got better lapse rates, cooling with height. Tomorrow, the threat is diminished somewhat. We may end up seeing a slight risk in here, but that front's going to slip east. Instability is going to be predominantly favored over the northern Great Lakes area, lower Michigan, northern Chicago, northern Illinois, northern Indiana around Chicago, and of course all of lower Michigan here, and near Green Bay as well. In the Front Range of the Rockies, too, could see a few scattered thunderstorms. This afternoon, instability, our fuel for thunderstorms. We're going to see this explode over basically Iowa and Minnesota and in Wisconsin. That is really going to take off this afternoon. We're talking about 4,000 joules of mixed layer CAPE. That's pretty strong instability, folks. So these updrafts are going to be vigorous. It'll abate overnight and diminish as we lose the heating of the day, and then pick back up tomorrow afternoon in those same areas that we saw on the threat for tomorrow around Michigan and Illinois and Indiana. That's where we'll find the best instability to work with tomorrow. As we take a look at how things should play out today, we're going to see those thunderstorms that are out there this morning move on off toward midday. We'll be approaching central Minnesota. This is the third or fourth day we've seen a complex move through, bringing heavy rain and thunder overnight into the morning and midday hours. And as we get on in toward 2 and 3 o'clock, we're going to start to see thunderstorms fire up, supercells here in Wisconsin, eastern Minnesota, out ahead of that frontal boundary that's going to organize eventually into clusters and produce more of a wind threat than a tornado threat. And see plenty of thunderstorms along the Front Range of the Rockies out here in Kansas and Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota. And then over the deep south and southeast, we'll see those thunderstorms fire up tonight. They'll all move off. We may see a complex or two, particularly here in southern Minnesota and Iowa, hold together through the nighttime hours and diminish in intensity as it pushes through tomorrow morning. There's that convection down in the Gulf moving toward the west as we get on into the morning hours tomorrow. 8, 9, 10 o'clock, things are kind of calm, but then we start it all over again here in Michigan. By tomorrow afternoon, we're seeing thunderstorms fire up here along that boundary back through Missouri and back into Oklahoma, some northern Texas, and the Front Range of the Rockies. Again, we're going to see thunderstorms form again, and hopefully tomorrow will not be quite as a severe, produce as much severe weather as today. Over here in the east, this afternoon, as we get on in toward midday, not a lot going on. Pretty nice up here in the northeast and the Great Lakes region and the mid-south. We don't really see much activity at all, seeing that activity push into northern Wisconsin as we get toward the evening. Here in the deep south toward southern Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity, maybe a few scattered storms in North and South Carolina, but not a lot going on. Overnight, here comes that cluster from Iowa in toward Wisconsin and Chicago. As we get on into tomorrow morning, again, nice day in the northeast, but we're going to start to see that change as we get on in toward the weekend, and more weather will push in there again. South, in the deep south, that's where we're going to find our thunderstorm activity tomorrow, and of course up in the Great Lakes region where the severe threat exists. And that's your severe weather outlook. Now we're going to turn our attention to the big heat, and the big heat is coming, and it's going to set up shop, put its feet up on your coffee table, wipe the mud off on the carpet, and stay around a long time. All right, our alerts map today shows a lot of orange and red up here, folks. We've got plenty of heat advisories out here for heat index values approaching or exceeding 100 degrees, could approach 110 in spots. Excessive heat warning, or extreme heat warning as it's called now, through the lower Mississippi Valley. heat indexes down here are going to get into the 110 range. Flash flooding a concern up here in northern Minnesota, where those thunderstorms are going to be training this afternoon. And air quality alerts for smoke. It is back, folks, and there it is coming in red, northern Minnesota. That cold front today is going to push off to the south and east, allowing for much more wildfire smoke to penetrate in here tomorrow. So we're going to see these air quality alerts likely shifted south. So get ready for more smoke at the ground level, unfortunately, and also air quality around Columbus, Cleveland, Louisville, and Indianapolis tomorrow or this afternoon as well. So take caution if you are sensitive to that. Now, the next couple of days, next few days, going to feature some big heat building in the center portion of the country. Not too bad up here in the northeast, not too bad over here in the west, where we find temperatures below normal. These reds and oranges are above normal temperatures, and we see when we get into these orange and these start to get into the reds, we're talking 9 to 10 degrees above normal. Okay, so this is going to be hot weather. This is for today. That's for Thursday. That's for Friday. Look at New England getting back in on the heat, stretching all the way back down through the Ohio Valley and into Texas. Still looking pretty good out here in Southern California, below average out there. Going to be cool this time of year for you all. There is Saturday, lots more heat building. And finally, we get on into Sunday. Look at this. The whole entire eastern half of the country, with the exception of down here in the south, where we've got clouds and probably some shower activity, and then up here in New England as well, lower New England rather, plenty of heat. We're talking big heat, over we're looking at widespread upper 90s to hundreds out here in the plains over the next few days. There's the dew point map that gives you an idea of where it's going to be humid, and all these green colors mean humidity, and we see a little bit of lighting of the colors up here in New England, and certainly darker colors back here in the west where it's not so humid. We get very dry air out in the Rockies and the Intermountain West. But as we get into Thursday and Friday, the lightest colors are up here in New England, and then Friday into Saturday, plenty of moisture. It's just not going anywhere at all. You get a little mixing out in the afternoon, but it's still going to feel muggy. Dew points in the 70s and 80s, and Corn Belt's going to be, look at this, really dark colors here in the Corn Belt. It is going to feel really bad up there. Hot for days on end. Humidity for days on end. If you've got to work outside, you've got to take breaks. You got to stay hydrated and get out of the heat as much as you can, because we're going to see days on end of heat index values approaching 100 or exceeding 100 easily. And so here is what we're looking at in terms of your weekend forecast, folks. Saturday morning, waking up to some rumbles of thunder in the lower Great Lakes, and then we get on into Saturday afternoon. That'll diminish a bit and then fire back up as we get back in through the day. Thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast, as well into Saturday afternoon along the Gulf Coast states rather. And you're going to see plenty of shower activity in those areas over the course of the afternoon. So you're going to have to make alternate plans probably here in the upper Ohio Valley, lower Great Lakes on Saturday. Some of these beaches around the mid-Atlantic and then over in the Gulf Coast on Saturday are going to have you're going to dodge showers and thunderstorms, so keep the umbrellas handy there. If you're traveling up into the northeast, this weekend looks pretty good. First half of the weekend, we get on into Sunday. And then here comes another batch of thunderstorms with a system that's moving through as we get into Sunday morning up here in the northern Dakotas and Minnesota too. On Sunday morning, you're going to find showers and thunderstorms there. Let me pull that down a little bit. And then scattered showers over the southeast and mid-Atlantic as we get through the day. Beaches not looking great in the mid-Atlantic on Sunday, but everywhere else, especially around the Gulf, looking a lot better than Saturday. Could have to dodge a few showers in the afternoon, but not too bad. And then as we get on into Sunday afternoon, it's looking stormy across the northern tier yet again, with boundary setting up across much of the mid-south, providing a few scattered showers and thunderstorms. That's what the actual precipitation pattern looks like. We get on out here and look at the actual ridges and troughs. There's our ridge currently, and you see what happens as we go way out in time. It builds here over the south initially and then moves back toward the western, basically the central portion of the country. Eventually it gets to the western portion of the country. I'm talking too fast here, but there we go. There's the big ridge as we get on out in toward Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, look where it goes. It goes back to the west or the Four Corners region. We get on to the next weekend. It's still moving west. And you notice that blue, look at that blue working in as we get toward next weekend. Could see another big, cool punch of air to start August as we get on in toward August. There we go. And there's our pattern for the end of July into early August. Big ridge out west. Troughing in the east could keep temperatures close to normal with storm chances in the northwest flow. There's the mighty CFS, still predicting the same pattern as predicted for days. Big ridge out west, heat dome for much of the country. The eastern areas will be favored for more normal temperatures. And here is the Climate Prediction Center's forecast for the 6 to 10 day period to end July 28th through August the 1st. Much above for most of the country with the exception of the northeast and the southwest. Above in Alaska and Hawaii. Precipitation patterns above across the north and then up and down the east coast. That will get a little less as we go on out in time. And that is your weekend and long range forecast. Now we're going to take a look at space weather and see what's going on with this geomagnetic storm. Well, as you can see by looking at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, we made it to minor geomagnetic storm status. There are those yellow bars on our KP chart. Nothing going on the coronagraph. No explosions off the sun, CMEs or anything like that. But the reason that we made geomagnetic storm condition status was because of the coronal hole stream that left the sun. And there it comes. You can see it. There's Earth right there, the little green dot. And that just sideswiped us a little bit. Didn't produce any damage and certainly didn't elicit any aurora reaction or very much of it, so didn't get the chance to view any auroras. If we look at our sunspot activity, we've got one turning center disk. We've got a couple of minor ones down here, but this is the only one of note really, and it's not doing too much in terms of intermixing magnetic charges. Blue out front, positive leading negative, so not looking for any solar flaring in the near future. Something could always pop off like a filament, but certainly not looking at any risk of solar flares from these sunspots. 5.2 in eastern Kazakhstan 30 minutes ago or so, but nothing else going on the earthquake front. No volcanic activity in our Pacific Ring of Fire volcanoes that we're watching. And then we are down to 2.5%, going down to a new moon tomorrow. Next full moon is August the 9th, right when the Perseid meteor shower peaks. So fortunate for that. But here is the answer to today's Weather IQ question. If you didn't know it already, why do leaves change color in the fall? Well, the answer is because chlorophyll breaks down. Trees reduce their chlorophyll production. Chlorophyll is the substance that enables the leaves to be green all year and hide the actual pigment colors within the leaves. And as that breaks down and less of that is available, then you start to see the pigments, the color pigmentation. It could be yellow, could be orange or red, but those colors come through vibrantly in the fall at times. Sometimes they're kind of dull, but hopefully this fall we'll have a vibrant fall and we'll see how it goes. And that's it. Now you know about chlorophyll, now you know the weather. And one more thing to know about. Back in 1829 on July the 23rd, William Austin Burt patents the typographer. He patented the typographer, and it was considered the first American typewriting machine, and it laid the groundwork for modern typewriters and keyboards. So when you're typing today, think of William Austin Burt, and now you know history. And that's it, folks. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. I'll be back tomorrow with another update, but as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you, other stations run 24/7. We got you covered right here, right now, 4814. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.